Hello, race fans, and welcome once again to another high-octane episode of Trackside, proudly presented by Document Technologies. Document Technologies provides a comprehensive range of managed solutions, including multifunction devices, managed print services, and document management software. They're also known for their fast service, boasting an average response time of 2 hours or less, and offer high-quality product multifunction devices alongside document management and cloud hosting software. Stay tuned, racing enthusiasts, because the action starts right now, right here on Trackside.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Trackside with Randy and Terry here. I'm Terry Turner. There's Randy Dye. Hi, Randy. I got a note here from Danica to kind of open the show. First, how you doing? You okay?
Doing good. It's it's happy 4th of July, man. I mean, how much better does it get to be able to celebrate America's birthday?
Yes, and all kinds of great things happened this week to celebrate as well. But Danica says to you and I, you guys are a couple of firecrackers. How about that?
Yeah, isn't that the truth? Yeah.
We have some fireworks. Say that again, Randy. I didn't hear
old firecrackers. Our bang may just be a pop.
Well, yeah, you have a good point. I guess we could delve into that, but most of the listeners could care less, I guess. But yeah, I don't know about you, but I have more aches and pains than I used to. How about you?
There are definitely things that you aren't accustomed to feeling. I tell you, that's for sure. I agree with that. Yep. I finally had to go to the eye doctor, and I'm saying, hey, Doc, I don't see as good as I used to. He said, well, do you expect to see as good as you used to? And I said, well, yeah, kind of. So it's sometime in the off season. I think it's going to be a cataract surgery on my left eye. So I'm looking forward to seeing better.
Well, I've done that in both eyes, and yes, it is better. Although last time I went for just a general physical, the doctor, well, Doc, how am I doing? And he said, well, if you're a building, I'd condemn you.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, it ain't funny, Randy. Come on, man. Holy cow. We're just teasing you, ladies and gentlemen. We both are glad to be here and actually feeling pretty good. So, yes, it is the 4th of July weekend. Lots of great things happening. I hope you get to spend some time with your family. Randy, you are a NASCAR historian, and thanks to you, many years ago, kind of hooked me up to NASCAR and got me interested in it. I wasn't before 16 years ago. I didn't really pay that much attention to it. I've always loved cars, but I sure love our sport and the opportunity that we have. And there's history makers in our sport and guys that built it over the years, of course, Richard Petty and Earnhardt and all of that, but, the kind of the behind-the-scenes guys that we don't get a chance to talk about that much until we lose one. And Mr. Larry McClure is a former NASCAR Cup Series team owner and Southwest Virginia businessman. He passed away on Wednesday, and Mr. McClure owned Morgan McClure Motorsports with Tim Morgan and Jerry McClure from 1983 to 2012. And Randy, this team fielded folks that we are definitely familiar with, guys in the NASCAR series, in the sport, in the Cup Series. How about Mark Martin, Ernie Irvin, Sterling Marlin? That team, or his group, an organization that he owned, ran 703 Cup Series races, and he won 14 times. The teams did. Biggest wins included 3 Daytona 500 victories and a win in the Bristol Night Race in 1991. He was a car dealer, owned several car dealerships in Southwest Virginia. So another great one is gone, and some great names that he provided cars for over the years. And golly, some of those names, especially Mark Martin, I sure miss seeing him run. So anyhow, thoughts and prayers to that family, Randy. I don't know if you were familiar with Mr. McClure, but I know you were with these guys, with Ernie Irvin, of course, and Sterling Marlin as a historian. So thoughts on that one, Randy?
Well, I think they didn't just race cars; they actually raced at a high level. you win 3 Daytona 500s. There are not many people, not many organizations on this planet that can say they've won 3 Daytona 500s. It's so they were. In other words, I think it's pretty safe to say it wasn't just a hobby. It was, they went at it in a very professional way, and they went at it to win. And they did have good talent driving their cars. They had great talent building their cars, it's tough. You talked about getting older. I think the biggest ache and pain that I have is what you just talked about. It's losing people that we grew up with, that were slightly older than we were, and therefore they're going on into the next life, and they leave us behind. So that is always, every time this happens, and it happens more because we're getting older, that's very painful. It's tough. You feel bad. You're thankful for the memories. You're thankful for the opportunity to have been around, to watch that organization. Kodak was the big sponsor for that team forever. The number 4. I mean, it was just, it's a big part of my growing up in this sport. Is that race team and those people that you mentioned. I didn't have the pleasure of knowing Larry McClure. I didn't. I know who he was, but I didn't know him personally. And the crew chief and some of the folks that were there in that organization, some of those teams, some of those people are still around. Ernie's still around. Mark's still around. Sterling's still around. That's the thing. It's always a tough day. It's a tough day when you read that. It's because it just, for me, it always shocks me back to the time when I could go right back. It's like a flash to a race, and you see the car, and you see the people. Yep.
Right.
Yep.
Well, and we discuss this often, and we lose people often, and we do in our age group, of course. I mean, you and I are both fans of music as well. We lose some of our heroes as far as music goes, and that kind of reminds you that time goes by pretty doggone fast. I mean, we're halfway in the season right now. It just does, and life goes by pretty fast. The Bible tells us so, Randy.
No, it's the truth. It absolutely is the case. I had to go to the dermatologist just because I saw something that I thought maybe I ought to have checked out. And they kicked my butt when I got there because they said, "Well, when's the last time you were here?" I said, "Oh, it's been a couple of years ago." And they opened up the record. And they said, "How about 2019?" I said, "Well, I mean, time flies, And so, but you're right. And I'll give you another one that happened this week, a couple days ago, and that was Richard Petty's 88th birthday. 88th birthday. That's just, I mean, it feels to me like it was only, a little while ago that I saw Richard Petty race at Daytona for the first time in my life against David Pearson and saw that crash. It's not that long ago, at least it doesn't feel like it to me, that I saw Richard Petty win his 200th race at that racetrack with President Reagan being being there, not in the crowd, but being present. It's not that long ago that I saw Richard Petty take one of the worst wrecks that I've ever seen at Daytona and walk away. So, time does go fast, for sure.
It does. Speaking of Richard Petty, by the way, going through all my releases and everything in preparation for the show, there was a nice video piece on the company Chrysler Corporation, which is now, of course, different name. And the point being the Dodge truck coming back into racing in NASCAR next year. And they went back and focused on history in Dodge, with Dodge in NASCAR, and of course with Richard Petty, and that name is synonymous with Dodge and all those things. And then another quick memory before we go to local is, speaking of Mark Martin, remember, and I don't know how many years ago this was, it was quite a few. Remember, accident, he comes into pit road fast, avoiding, and hits the concrete wall right behind his head. Remember that?
Oh, that was one of the scariest wrecks I've ever seen, to have no injury. I mean, I've seen some scary wrecks and people do get hurt. That was just, yeah. I mean, it's like when you saw that wreck, it's like that really couldn't have just happened. Your brain couldn't catch up to that.
Exactly.
Yep.
Exactly.
I was there. I saw it happen.
I have no clue what year it was, but it's been some years back. I don't know how many years even Mark Martin has been out of NASCAR, but of course he'll never really be out of NASCAR, but he's not been driving for quite a while. But yeah, it just goes back to the essence of time for sure. So, let me
tell you a quick Mark Martin story before we go. It's been now I think 3 years ago. That's actually right now in July the 16th, as a matter of fact. I think it'll be 3 years ago that Daniel went to Montana to run the Montana 200 in another guy's race car, a late model, and the car was to be crew chiefed by Mark Martin. And I talked to Mark, and I'm like, yeah, this is kind of a publicity event. It's going to be Mark Martin in name. Because I should have known better. We got out there, and Mark Martin, I'm telling you, when I tell you he worked and was competitive and was in it and on it, and I mean, he was the Mark Martin as if he was driving the race car. It was really incredible to experience that weekend with Mark Martin. We know each other. It wasn't like that we were just getting to know one another. We knew each other from a long time ago. We did some things together. We built the quarter midget racetrack. Anyway, but I never would have believed that Mark Martin would actually have been a hands-on crew chief for this event, and he was. And I never would have believed that he would have been the fire in his eye, the competition piece that he had was absolutely remarkable. I kept shaking my head. I'm going, like, he's serious, and he was very serious. But that's Mark Martin. So, and by the way, that race is when we were able to help launch 988 in the United States. The National Suicide Prevention Hotline went active on that day, July 16th. So, 2002.
Yeah. And what a difference it has made. There's no doubt about that. Last thing on Mark Martin, I would say, and I think you would agree, and we'll just use one name, but there's many we could use. Let's use Carson Hocevar. Could learn a lot from how Mark Martin behaved on the racetrack. A lot of these young drivers could go back and watch Mark race and listen to some of the things that Mark said. Would be a lot better race car drivers if they would do that. Am I incorrect in this statement?
I think it's unfortunate because a lot of these guys, Mark Martin, we can name driver after driver after driver that were very aggressive, knew when to be aggressive, though, and used that skill set to at the right time, at the right moment in time, and didn't waste it on, just an ordinary lap or. And I'm not saying there's ever an ordinary lap, but there's a big difference. The circumstances dictate how you run some of the laps, and what you got to do. And I think Mark Martin was very well known for for conserving his equipment and and not beating stuff up and I watched him forever and ever, and I once in a while would think that if he had been a little bit more aggressive, he might have won a few more races. But at the end of the day, he's a Hall of Famer, had a Hall of Fame career. He definitely was one of the most well-respected racers out there, and I think we get this. It's like this puff your chest out because you can go turn somebody around. It really doesn't take any talent to go spin somebody out in a cup race or an Xfinity race. I mean, these cars are on the edge lap after lap after lap, and
right.
So they don't need much help to spin out. And I think the question ends up being: are you really being overly aggressive, or you just don't have the car control to be able to race that way? And I think that's the question. I know that's the question the garage area asks.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, do me a favor, Randy. When we get off the air, get in touch with Mr. Mark Martin and ask him to touch base with Denny Hamlin. Maybe give him a little bit of advice. Anyway, with that, ladies and gentlemen, let's go to the local segment of the Trackside program.
One Daytona, located across from the world's center of racing, is proud to present our local segment, where we talk with a local star in your part of the country following a big win, event preview, and much more. One Daytona in Daytona Beach is a vibrant destination offering an array of shopping, dining, and entertainment options, including unique events and live music suitable for families and individuals alike.
Hey, race fans, happy Independence Day weekend. Volusia Speedway Park is off till August 29th when they will return with the Labor Day Classic as part of a 3-day event. There will be a test and tune for all divisions on Friday and then full race programs on Saturday and Sunday. Fun for the whole family. The Labor Day Classic will showcase Dirt Car UMP Modified, 604 late models, 602 late models both nights, while the 3/4 Modifieds will run on Saturday and the factory stocks will run on Sunday. New Smyrna Speedway was off last week, back on Saturday night with the Shark Bite Pro Late Model Twin 50s. That'll feature Pro Late Models, Bomber A's, Sportsman, and E-Mods. Heat races start at 6. Features start at 7:30. Five Flag Speedway in Pensacola was in full swing last Friday night with the Blizzard Series race number 3. In Super Late Models, the winner is Cole Butcher. The Outlaws, Bubba Winslow. Modifieds, Richie Smith. Sportsman, Chad Robinson. Crown Stocks, Adam Salter. And in the Allison Legacy Series, Carson Green gets the win. Five Flags off until Friday, August 8th. They'll be back with Modified of Mayhem Tour, Sportsman, Pure Stocks, and Crown Stocks. And the NASCAR Truck Series last weekend on Friday night at Lime Rock Park. Corey Heim gets the win. The Xfinity guys at Atlanta, Nick Sanchez gets the win. Our own Daniel Dye from Daytona gets the 8th place run. And in the Cup Series, NASCAR's most popular driver, Chase Elliott, gets the win, surviving an 18-car crash when Denny Hamlin gets into John Hunter Nemechek. This Saturday in the Xfinity Series, they go to Chicago for the street race. That's at 4:30 on CW. The Cup guys in the Chicago street race on Sunday at 2 p.m. That will be seen on TNT. The trucks are off until Friday, July 25th. They'll be back at the Indy Raceway Park at 8 o'clock on Fox Sports 1. And remember this weekend, light fuse and get away. By the way, ladies and gentlemen, I made a mistake there. New Smyrna Speedway, that is not this Saturday night. That is next Saturday night. So they are off for the holiday. So sorry about that. Randy, 8th place finish in a wild race in the Xfinity Series. Daniel Dye does a heck of a job. Congratulations to, of course, you, Daniel, and the team. What a race the young man drove.
It was really good. We weren't satisfied again with our qualifying. I think we qualified 22nd, but we were really good in the race. And I think, in fact, I did some statistic checking. We ran the fifth fastest timed lap of the entire field during the race. So we were really very good. The team did a remarkable job of getting the car comfortable for Daniel to drive, and he drove it. He did a really good job. I felt like we needed some help, meaning we needed a drafting partner again, and you've heard me say that before. And, quite honestly, that's sort of the challenge of a rookie, getting, finding somebody, a veteran to help you. So a lot of times you have to do it on our own. In fact, if you were listening to the race, if you happen to be listening to Daniel's spotter, he tried to make an arrangement with one of the other teams, and I guess we got about 2 laps of that, and the guy just left us out to dry. But that's part of the sport. You've got to figure out who's going to draft with you, and I do think a car, had we had a partner, that was probably a top 3. So, it's multiple top 10s this year, lots of experience, lots to gain on, working really hard at getting better and better. And I think I've said this before on our program. There's always been 3 criteria since the first day Daniel sat in a quarter midget. We have to learn, we have to get better, and we have to have fun, and you got to do all 3 of those all the time. And as long as we can do that, we'll keep trying to do this thing. And I think when you walk away from a place like Atlanta, and I think as a fan, that was a fantastic race to watch. I mean, the cars were racy, the racetrack was racy, there was a lot going on. It wasn't boring, that's for sure. It wasn't a follow-the-leader racetrack. You raced. You still needed help. Couldn't do it by yourself, but you could race. And I think from our perspective, we're pleased. We were the top finishing colleague car. We still got a bunch of points we got to make up. We got all the way through St. Louis to try to get into the playoffs on either a win or points. I think I'd like to just see him go win, but that'd be awesome to get a first win and get ourselves into the playoffs. But there's a long ways to go between where we are and winning too. So that we know that.
Well, it just seems to be driving better and more mature every week. He said in an interview after the race, and you said top 3. Daniel said top 5 car. He thought he had a top 5 car for sure. He was definitely fast, but just driving like he's been driving a lot longer than he's been driving, Randy. To watch him drive and maneuver through issues and take care of the car and take care of the tires and all that. I would say again, some of the other young drivers, may look at what Daniel's doing. A win is coming. There's no doubt about that. I think anybody in NASCAR that knows NASCAR that watches Daniel run would tell you that it's coming.
Well,
whether points or a win, we want to see him get in the playoffs. I think he will. But, anyway, good job. Go ahead. You were going to say something.
Well, I think the crew did such a great job. Also, the pit crew. If you saw the race and he's rolling along there and running good, and there was a wreck that kind of happened, kind of in front of him up high. And then the car came down across the back of Daniel's car, and for all intents and purposes, it took the tail of the car right off. And our crew was able to get Daniel pit. I mean, now we had a couple of penalty situations where we had to go to the longest line because we pitted before pit road was open, but we did it to try to keep, to get the car fixed and get back out there and stay on the lead lap. And then Daniel had to race his way back up, which he did. But those guys worked hard, and they gave us a car that was, in my opinion, probably pretty doggone close to what we had rolled off rolled off at the start with. I mean, they did a really great job of repairing the race car and still making it, racy, especially at an aero racetrack. I mean, man, you can't, you get something twisted up, bent out of shape, that's different than it makes a big difference at that place. And these guys did a phenomenal job.
All that being said, 8th place finish, fantastic. No doubt about that. Congrats to everybody on the team and Daniel Dye, of course. With that, ladies and gentlemen, let's roll right into the truck section of the Trackside program.
The Tough Trucks of NASCAR are next up on the agenda, presented by Aaron Delgado and Associates. With over 110 combined years of experience in criminal defense and personal injury, Aaron Delgado and Associates takes pride in vigorously representing clients in various challenging legal situations within the community. Now, let's go trucking.
Well, Randy, as I said in the local segment, a great race at Lime Rock with the truck guys, and this was the first time since 2011 that the NASCAR had been there. This was a 2-day event and a great success. 20,000 fans attending that truck race, Randy. Corey Heim pretty much dominated the race, but looks like it's a possibility that Lime Rock could be visited again. The fans, wow, they were excited. They turned out. It was a great race. NASCAR's up to good things. It keeps doing cool stuff, going to better places, exposing the sport to a lot of more people, and 20,000 people showed up for the trucks at a place where we hadn't been since 2011. Pretty good news.
Well, I think it was great. I mean, I do think Corey Heim and Scott Zipadelli, his crew chief at Tricon Garage, they are undoubtedly the class of the truck series right now. There's no question that they have it figured out. Zipadelli is he knows his stuff. Corey Heim is clearly a talented race car driver, and I guess the question ends up being, where does he fit? Because the Toyota program is pretty tight, and you look across the aisle there and say, where does he fall in the mix? I don't know, man. I mean, the Cup Series, looks. I think it's. What I do think is they were trying to find him a ride. That whole kerfuffle there with Legacy and Rick Ware Racing and the charter and that conversation. I personally believe that charter was so they could go get Corey Heim in a race car. That's my belief. Now, nobody's told me that, but that's what I think. Now, what does that do? Because that's certainly in question. And you just heard that Rick Ware, or you probably read it, that Rick Ware has sold his team. And so now what? It's that kind of clears that whole thing. That whole transaction is going to be null and void. So I don't know what that means. I just know that without a doubt that Tricon Garage, Scott Zipadelli, and Corey Heim combination is lethal for the rest of the field.
Yep, as Tony Stewart used to call him, Zippy. He pretty much knows what he's doing, and whether it be trucks, Xfinity, or Cup, he could be a crew chief again in any one of those. You never know what's going to happen in NASCAR, no doubt about it. But that, ladies and gentlemen, we'll take a quick break, and I got some questions for Randy when we get back. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. You're listening to Trackside.
Introducing the all-new tractor and outdoor power equipment section at DeLand Motorsports and Outdoors. Now you can gear up for your outdoor projects with premium brands like Bobcat, Massey Ferguson, Shindaiwa, Echo, and more. Need a powerful lawnmower for that perfectly manicured lawn? They've got it. How about a rugged tractor to tackle those big projects? DeLand Motorsports and Outdoors has you covered. And let's not forget the Lawn and Garden Center with everything from weed whackers to chainsaws. Commercial or residential, DeLand Motorsports and Outdoors has the goods to keep you moving. So why settle for ordinary when you can have extraordinary? Visit DeLand Motorsports and Outdoors today at their new location and explore the thrilling world of outdoor power equipment. DeLand Motorsports and Outdoors, where the thrill of the ride meets the power of the great outdoors. Your journey begins here.
Welcome back to Trackside as we now take a look under the hood in the NASCAR Xfinity Series presented by Daytona's Garage. Daytona's Garage offers more than just standard dealership customization. They provide a comprehensive range of services for personalizing and enhancing cars, Jeeps, and trucks of any make and model, focusing on both aesthetics and performance with affordability. Reliable service. Now, back to Terry and Randy.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, Daytona's Garage can put some fireworks under your hood. Well, anyway, speaking of fireworks, sorry that just slipped out. I just, went off the track there just for a second, but you're used to it by now. Sure. Just saying, if I had a stack of all the press releases, including the YouTube, I'd have a big stack. Kind of clear up what happened with Austin Hill and Daniel Dye. I'm just going to shut up and let you talk. I mean, I've seen the videos and all of that stuff, and I'm not going to comment any further. Can you explain what caused that and kind of what happened?
Yeah. So first off, I think to be clear, obviously I'm Daniel Dye's dad, so you're gonna, if you listen to our program and you're clearly entitled to your own opinion, and so this could sound a little bit like, I'm biased, and I am, no doubt, toward my kid, but I think as any parent would be. However, I'm also pretty objective in this sport. I've been doing this a long, long, long time. So the first premise you got to understand is that colleague racing with its three cars, the 10, the 11, and the 16. Daniel drives the 10. Williams drives the 11, and oh my goodness, I'm going blank. Drives the 16. I'll come back to it in a minute here. And then you have the RCR cars, which are the 2 and the 21, Jesse Love and Austin Hill. And then there's one more on that campus, and that's the 48 who won the race, right? So basically that's, by the way, it's Christian. I'm sorry, Christian Eckes on the 16. Right. Basically, that's kind of affectionately known as Team Welcome, One Welcome. So you're never going to get everybody to just race as a unit, but let's say Daytona, you're out there and it's a green flag pit stop, and you know how important the draft is. So you want to try to pit all those cars together, generally at the same time, so they exit pit road together, and they have their own draft right away, right? So that's an example of teamwork that you could say. What happened in Atlanta is sort of an extension of that. So unfortunately, Austin Hill had a problem really early in the race, and they had a problem with the fuel pickup. They just that's what we thought. It ended up being a kinked line, which is really strange. But that be what it may, he got 6 laps down in the process of figuring it out and getting it repaired and all that. But he was fast. He still had a lot of speed. So as we're working our way through the race, we're, once again, this is a super speedway. We need a drafting partner. We need more than one drafting partner. We need to have folks that work together. Well, Austin Hill's not going to win the race. He's too many laps down. You're never going to get that many laps down back under lucky dog situation. So, we're running right there with him, and we kind of put a little deal together, and he only did it for about a lap and a half, and then he left. He got in a different line and kind of hung us out to dry. Well, that was certainly not consistent with what we believe One Welcome teammates are hoping to do for one another. And Daniel got real frustrated, and he did something he shouldn't have done. Guilty as charged, flying the Fickle Finger of Fate award.
Right.
But to be clear, and I'm not making excuses, I'm just telling you like it is, he should never have even had that opportunity. He should never have been able to be angry, because his teammate should have been in the position and decide to help him. So he did, and he was wrong. And Austin Hill comes over and expresses his dissatisfaction. He comes to Daniel's pit. Ultimately, what probably he should have done is either called, texted, or waited till the team meeting, because back to the point, every week, all those drivers of all those cars I just mentioned, Josh Williams, Christian Eckes, Daniel Dye, Jesse Love, Austin Hill, and Nick Sanchez, all meet in a competition meeting, and they discuss the race not only from the standpoint of how they raced on the racetrack, but what was the setup like, how did it feel, all the stuff you would expect. And that's where that should have been handled. But that's not where it was handled. And, I would think you saw the tape. There's a lot of people made lots of comments. I'm not saying it's okay what Daniel did, by the way. Not at all. I've told him so. So, to be clear. But it was shocking, the decision that the 21 made in that particular moment and on the racetrack.
Well, I mean, again, from an open point of view, although I am somewhat prejudiced as well, but, if I'm in the seat that Daniel's in that race car, I would have, even at my age, I probably would have done the same thing, because it just made, what the heck is going on? We had a deal worked out. Your lap's down, help a teammate. Come on. Surely that will or did come up in the meeting, and hopefully there was some solutions come from it and a lesson learned. Am I
well, the other part
that?
of it is, the other part of it is I can tell you that had the roles been reversed, Daniel would have helped him. And I think that's really where Daniel's frustration came from. But I also am going to tell you this. So Daniel and any driver, when you can't work with somebody, if it becomes clear that you can't work with somebody, then you got to go find somebody else to work with. So
correct.
That's the growing, the maturing of the racecraft that Daniel still has to do. It's just like, okay, you can get mad at the 21, but that didn't change what happened. So you got to find somebody else that you can race with to help you do what you need to do. If it's not going to be the guy who you would expect it to be, it's got to be somebody, and you got to find that somebody.
Right. Well, lesson learned for all there, and like Daniel said, he had a top 5 car. The difference could have been a great deal of difference if the 21 would have given him a hand there. So that being said, now we understand. Before we move to Cup, Xfinity guys are going to be in Chicago, as I mentioned earlier. That is the Loop 110. It's a 2.2 mile street course, and the purse, Randy, for that is $1,651,939. So Chicago street race is a big one. Before we move to Cup, though, a lot of discussion from, as we've seen in the past, from the media that this could be the last year at Chicago. Have you heard any of those thinkings and clankings around the garage area?
I think you always hear that about temporary racetracks, right? So it's those facilities that are permanent certainly have a better opportunity to have have races. But I don't, and they typically sign, couple year agreements at least, so that there's an opportunity to get a return on the investment. So I don't know whether Chicago goes away or not. I mean, you start hearing about what's coming, then you got to know something's going to give, because at this point it's a 36 race schedule plus 2 exhibition races. Obviously the Clash and the All-Star race. So that's a long year, and I don't expect to see any more races. So something has to give. And I don't know whether it's Chicago. I don't know whether it's Mexico. Who knows? I can't. I'm not the guy. You've heard and seen. They're contemplating San Diego.
Yep.
I'm just
Who knows? Who knows?
Yeah,
well, it's funny. I had a
chuckle.
dream about this, Randy, and I dreamed that Trump said, not only am I going to take away federal funding if you don't get straightened out, Chicago, but I'm going to take away the street race as well. That's the dream. So, with that, ladies and gentlemen, let's head into the Cup section of Trackside.
UniFirst presents Conversation about the NASCAR Cup Series, the pinnacle. In auto racing, just like Cup, UniFirst is also the leader of the pack as the uniform and facility service experts. Let's go back to our hosts, Randy and Terry.
Randy, we discussed earlier, sometimes we lose very important people in our sport, and then sometimes we gain some. So congratulations to Gianna and Ryan Blaney. They announced on Instagram that she and Ryan are expecting their first child later this year. So Mr. Blaney is going to be on a different kind of racetrack with a brand new child coming up in 2025. So congratulations to them. That's a big one.
No doubt. Ryan's a great kid. I've known his dad since he and I were kids. And then, of course, I remember rooting for Ryan's granddad in Northwest Pennsylvania, Ohio, and around. Actually, up into New York. He was Lou Blaney was Ryan's grandpa, and he was legendary around there. And I find it a little bit ironic, to be honest with you, that Daniel's racing the number 10 because that was Lou Blaney's number, Brian's grandpa's number. Yeah.
Wow. That's a big one. Well, I can't remember how many years ago when Ryan Blaney was just getting into NASCAR. We had him on our program from the racetrack there at Daytona, and he was just a shy little guy. But
he was.
He's come a long way now.
Yeah.
He's a big boy now, no doubt about that. So. Randy, we talk about ratings, of course, and we've had quite a bit of discussion about the Amazon viewership and how all that came out and how it's what it's going to look like in the future. The ratings came out for the Atlanta race, Echo Park Speedway, for the Cup race, and the ratings are better than were on Amazon. And so, all the analysts are talking about it, and you and I have discussed this many times. Where are the races? What day are they going to be on? And what channel are they going to be on? Well, obviously the Atlanta race was on Saturday. A casual NASCAR fan, a new fan, expects the Cup race to be on Sunday. And, a lot of the commentators were saying, hey, this is a possibility of some of the ratings being off. Now, that rating didn't include the on-max viewers, but it's a possibility because, unless you're following it, it wasn't widely promoted that the race was going to be on Saturday. Your thoughts?
Well, I think that's it. I mean, I think it always amazes me how look, we know, you're in radio. There's all kinds of different media sources, and everybody always talks about streaming, and they talk about digital, and they talk about social, and all that stuff. And there is no doubt that it is a powerful. Those are powerful platforms, but they need something that causes you to go to them. And so, what I would say to you is that what I've found in my business is that we clearly are on digital marketing. We're clearly on social. We are definitely a part of the streaming part of media. But we also are part of the traditional media, cable TV, network TV, because we have to do something to call attention to our. I guess the best way I know how to say it is this: if you're going to go and you're going to build a building, and you're going to decide you're going to be in a restaurant, you've got to tell people where you are and what. That's the same thing as what I think you have to do with social media. You got to tell people there's a reason to look at your social media. You got to tell people there's a reason to look at your website. You got to tell people that you're having an event And how better to do that than television? And the numbers prove that. Now, I'm not telling you that I don't think that it's a good that Prime and all that is not a bad that it's a bad investment. Not saying that. I'm saying though that I don't think it's a standalone. It needs an assist from traditional media to make it work. And you're right. The fans expect a consistent schedule, a consistent time, and a consistent place to consume their sport.
People are creatures of habit. There's no doubt about that. Yeah. Well, we can see the impact of it, and hopefully everybody gets it and changes are made. Just a quick side note before we talk Daniel Suarez. Kyle Larson's team at Atlanta failed the pre-race inspection twice. Passed it on the third time, but they were penalized, and the car chief, Jesse Saunders, was ejected. He had to leave the place for the entire race. So, not sure. It doesn't really tell me in my press release exactly why they failed it, but they did fail it twice.
That's never cool. You don't get to hang around. Yeah, you don't get to hang around if you fail inspection twice. You know, the reason why this is all, there's a lot of reasons, but one of the things that used to happen in inspection was you would present a car that you would build into it things that you might think will fail, and with the hope that it would draw their attention away from the things you wanted to get away with. So with the way NASCAR did inspection, they gave you too many chances, and so you just kept messing with it, and you mess up the process. And so it's not just you lose the crew chief, or in this case the car chief gets thrown out, but you lose practice time. You don't get to qualify. They have a whole series of things that you lose if you present a
pit
car
selection.
That too. Yeah, and that's a big deal.
Yep.
So, that's the way the game was played, and you basically presented a car to pre-race inspection to see what you could get away with. And the other thing that used to happen with inspection was you only then were responsible to fix what they found. Right. So, in other words, if the spoiler was too high, and that's the only thing you failed for, you could go fix the spoiler, and you'd come back for that. Now you go right back at the very end of the inspection line and start the entire process over again.
Twice in this case. Plus using your you have to wait till the last guy also to get your pit selection. So you get what was left over, which hurts you. So yeah. Wow, that's for that team. I was going to surprise Randy. Daniel Suarez. A lot of talk, and his wife made some comments, a while back. I don't know if that was kind of about teammate and not working together with the one and 99, etc. But he will not be returning to Trackhouse after this year. He will finish out the season and hopefully get a win or get qualified and be in the playoffs. But not coming back, and at this point, no word on what he's going to do.
No, I think if you look around, that's a tough one. I think first off, the reason I believe he's not coming back is because I think the 88 in the Xfinity Series is going to go up and run in the Cup Series. So Connor Zillage, in my opinion, is going to move into the Trackhouse ride, and so which means better news for Shane Van Gisbergen than I would have thought. I kind of thought maybe he was the man on the bubble. But with Daniel Suarez out, and I think that means Connor Zillage is in, then what happens? Well, I guess Daniel Suarez, remember, he ran a race for Junior Motorsports in Mexico City in one of their cars, wrecked the primary car, used the backup car, and won the race.
Right.
So he could run the Xfinity Series for Junior Motorsports. You look over at Joe Gibbs, where he once was, and you say, well, there's probably nothing in the Cup Series at this moment anyway, but the 19 in the Xfinity Series has had multiple drivers in the seat, Eric Almirola being the one who's in it the most, but not exclusively, so maybe there's that. Who knows what the Rick Ware selling his Cup car to TJ that started Spire Motorsports, what that might look like. There's obviously, I think you've heard quite a bit of noise around Alex Bowman in the 48 for Hendricks. Like maybe that one's going to be open. So, is that a possibility? I mean, there's options out there, and then who knows? Maybe he. He's done some broadcasting. I'm not sure. I don't know, but I don't think I would find it hard to believe that he would be done.
Oh yeah, definitely. He's only 33, so yeah, we'll see. And he certainly is a talented race car driver. There's no doubt about that. But as we know, these young guys coming up, Connor Zilic has made quite an impression on a lot of people. He's a great race car driver, but in NASCAR, you just can't really predict, Randy, what's going to happen. We can guess, we can't predict. With that, ladies and gentlemen, we have flown through our time again. Hopefully you get out and enjoy Independence Day and remember what it's all about. We're lucky to be in this country, lucky to be able to do this show. Enjoy your family. We'll see you right here next week on Trackside.
Keep the racetrack, everybody, and happy 4th of July.
And with the checkered flag waving, we're wrapping up this week's edition of Trackside. Fear not, race fans, because we'll be back next week, proudly presented by Document Technologies. Tune in for a fresh new episode packed with engaging interviews, captivating conversations, and all the exhilarating moments you've come to expect. Until then, keep the racing spirit alive, and we'll see you next time on Trackside.